And we're going to add a paddle today. So let's go File, New, Project, or New File, Empty File. Okay. It'll ask if I want to add it to my project. I obviously do. And I'm going to call it paddle.h. Paddle.h. I'm going to use an uppercase because I'm going to give my variable the type paddle. There we go. Perfect. I'm going to use probably a lot of the same stuff I used in ball.h. So the first thing I'll do is I will include, oopsie, physics. Whoa, look at that one. Physical monitor numeration. Let me just unzoom here. I'm going to include physics.h so that my paddle will have all the physics stuff it needs. I will call it a struct. The other word you could use is class. They both do the same thing. So there's one small difference. I like the word struct. It's like we're making our own structure called paddle, and we're going to give it its own variables and its own stuff. And so if you put if you put the curly braces, it will close them for you. Okay, great. And now you will be able to, if you go into your main, you can now include this paddle, include paddle. And you can make your own paddle variable if you want now. And it doesn't do anything, but you could make it. And it would just be an empty place in memory. So let's give it.
I swear to God. Stop crashing.
Okay, back row. So first thing I'll do is I'm going to give this paddle all of the properties of SFML's rectangle shape. So you write colon, and then you write the word public, and then you write SF, and then you write rectangle shape. Okay. And essentially paddle, your paddle variable has now become the exact same thing as a rectangle shape in SFML. So if I make a paddle, I'm just going to save that. If I do go ahead and make a paddle, P1, it will have every single property that a rectangle shape has, which is nice. It's just going to be, we could draw it, we could change its size, we could set its color, we could do all that kind of stuff. The problem is we also want it to have its own box 2D stuff as well. We're kind of mixing and matching the two. When we first made our first box 2D project, they were separate. We had this box 2D world. We made our own little blocks, and then it was the display worlds command. It was its job to draw everything for us. But now we're kind of making our own variable that is going to take on all the properties of a rectangle shape, but it's also going to have a box 2D body associated with it. So let me add that right now by writing b2 body, and you just write star and you give it a name, and now it will have a physics body. So any paddle I make will have a body in the physics world as long as I can add it to the physics world. The way I usually do that is I steal the code from the physics.h file. There is a create box command here. So I usually just steal it. I'm going to hit copy there. I'm not going to give it the type block this time. I'm not going to call it create box either. So I'm going to go to my paddle. I'm going to paste that in there. So that's going to add a box 2D object to my box 2D world. But I have to go in and just change a few things. The first thing I have to do is not call it create box. I have to call it paddle. I have to give it the name of my actual variable. Everything else should be okay there. Okay. It's still going to have a width and a height, which is good. Pixels per meter. All that stuff is fine. I'm going to give it a linear dampening of 0 because I don't want it to be slowing down. All of this stuff is just box 2D code. I think we discovered on Friday that if we give it a restitution of 1, it makes it bouncy. We don't want it to have any friction, so that's all good. And then the change here we need to make is that we don't need to make our own box 2D body called res, which is what we did in the past. You just write the word body equals here, and body. And that will keep track of, that will add this thing to the physics world. As long as we pass it a physics world here when we make a paddle, it will add it to the physics world. So we don't need this command either. We don't need anything to do with res. And we also don't need any of, we don't need to make our own shape. The thing actually is a shape. Okay. And we don't need to write shape.setOrigin, shape.setPosition, shape.fillColor. We actually just write those commands, and because our paddle is an SFML rectangle, it will have all that. It's just missing its set size, so let's do that too. Set size. We're going to write vector 2f and then the width and the height. So now we should have, that should make a box and put it in our physics world. That's all there is to it. Okay? It's a lot of box 2D code. This is all box 2D code to make a box in a physics world. And then this is all the SFML code that will draw the thing for us, or give it a height and a width and a shape to draw. See if it works. Let's see if it works. Let's make a paddle. So there's it there. I'm just going to go and make my paddle P1, just like always. But it's going to want all the same stuff we give a box 2D create box command. The reason why is because I made this paddle function, and it takes in a world variable, and then 2 floats for position, 2 floats for width and height, and then potentially a body type as well. This is always called the constructor when you make your own variables. Okay, you have to make a function with the name of the variable, and then that's the function that gets called when you make it. So when I make a P1 in my main, it actually is going to call this entire function here, which is great. I just need to pass it those things though. So I do have a physics world, not yet. I have a world on line 18, so I have to make that paddle after line 18. Probably make it maybe here. So I'm going to write the word paddle. It registers it. I'm going to call it P1. Might have 2 paddles, maybe not. Needs my world. Let's give it like the width of a good paddle, might be 150 pixels, something like that. Wants a Y position, so maybe somewhere at the bottom of the screen, maybe 550. Wants a width. So maybe I'll make that 150, about 150 pixels wide, and a height of like, I don't know, 20 pixels. I also don't want it to be a dynamic body by default. It will be. I'm going to make it a kinematic body. Kinematic bodies are good for moving platforms. Okay, so run that. Let's also draw it. Hey, Mr. Brian.
Hello.
Window dot draw P1.
You're drawing.
Paddle.
Oh, fun. Huh?
See if it works. Yep. Brick breaker. Oh boy. This needs to say SF colon colon. Sorry about that, guys.
This is my program is stupid.
It's not stupid. It knew exactly what was wrong and told me, hey, there's my paddle. Perfect. Okay. Now, if that ball hits it, it will actually bounce off of it, I think. Do we have a chance to hit it? Come on. Oh!
It does work.
It's a little bit off, actually, so we're going to have to figure out why. Excuse me, the origin is messed up. Maybe the... let's look. Yes, it's off. It is definitely off. Okay. So it is not drawing exactly where it is in the physics world. And we're going to have to work that out. So it probably has something to do with the fact that something to do with the origin. We're going to have to kind of when box 2D makes a box, let's have a look here on paint. When you give box 2D a position, am I drawing here? Oops, okay. I'll draw a square here. When box 2D draws a box, it always draws it from the center being the origin. Right there. Let me get a brush right there. And when SFML draws a box, it always assumes the origin is at the top left corner. Okay? So we got some sort of issue where my box is here in the physics world, but SFML has kind of drawn it here. You know what I mean? And so it thinks, so when the ball is here, or if the ball is here, it's actually bouncing, and if it's here, it's not. So we'll have to figure out why that's happening and work through that. Maybe we don't set the origin here. We've got our size, we've got our position. Let's see what happens if we get rid of that set origin. Potentially that might be the issue. We'll also want to get this paddle moving.
Do you want another dollar?
No,
Just hungry.
it's your turn.
I don't have any. I just want to ask you to put it on my tab.
Yeah? Starting to get thick though. Hey! Was that it, guys? Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Awesome. Okay, so I don't think we need to set the origin then. That's good news to hear. Let's see. Definitely. Definitely working better now. Okay, so I'm just going to keep that commented out because that might be an issue later, or I don't know if it 100% works yet because I haven't moved my paddle. I don't know how to move my paddle yet. So I do want to make a command to move the paddle, right? So I'm going to make my own command and I'll give it maybe... what did we do for the ball one? Set velocity? We might as well just steal that code. That'll work for the paddle as well. So we'll delete that and we'll just hit set velocity like that. Okay. Or maybe we don't even want to do it like that. Maybe we want to inside the update position command, we could check if the keyboard's ever being pressed, and that could move the paddle up and down. So maybe we do that. Let's copy the update position command.
Both of them?
Both, yeah. The update position command would get where it was in the physics world, right? Okay. Let's add something in here to check if the keyboard's pressed, and if it is, make sure that the thing moves. So maybe I don't need the set velocity command for now. I don't need to set the velocity of my paddle ever, but what I want to do is I want to check if the keyboard's ever being pressed. And I'll just pick the letters. So if keyboard. Now everything I do in SFML has to have that SF : in front of it. Normally we don't use that SF : The command is key pressed, and then you pick the keyboard key. SF : keyboard. I'm gonna pick the letter A for the left. Okay. So if it's ever pressed to the left, I want to just give it a nudge in the left direction. So I'm just going to go body. I want to set the physics velocity, right? I don't care about the SFML where it is because this command is going to find out where it is in the physics world and then always update its position. So every time I want to move something or change something, I really want to do it on the physics body. So I'm going to look for a command that will say set velocity. Hopefully there's one in there. Is there? Set linear velocity. It's looking for this 2D vector in box 2D, B2 vec2. Okay. So I'm just going to pick a number here. I don't know how fast 1 is, but I want to see if that works. Let's see if I press the letter A when my paddle moves to the left. And if it does, how fast is it? Is it fast or slow? Okay. It doesn't do anything because I haven't called this command yet. So I am going to call that command in my main. Maybe right here. P1.update position. Okay, so it's just a command. It doesn't take anything in. Hopefully that should... See, buddy? Yeah, there it goes. It's moving. Look at that. Okay, -1 seemed a little slow. So maybe -3 or something. Problem is, it may... That's fast enough for now. Maybe -4. Okay. Then I'm going to say else. I want to set the thing's position to 0 if it's not moving. So I'm going to go body dot set linear velocity to 0, 0. Here you go, Bo.
Only with King Kumar.
Oh,
Can't have it.
no.
What are you trying to do?
Were you here Friday?
No, I was away.
Okay, you're gonna have to watch that video then, friendo.
Okay. You should make a thing where a ball's bouncing and then the paddle on the bottom, like there's walls but not on the bottom, and there's a paddle on the bottom that automatically moves to where the ball will be.
Yeah.
Make that.
Oh, that's your job, buddy.
No, that's not a game.
Wait.
I actually thought of a good game. I came in during lunch
Yeah.
and I got so much work done. But then as soon as people came to the classroom, I couldn't focus.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna do, guys. That's a theme with you, Benjamin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna set the velocity to 0 automatically, and then if they press, I'll just say B2 vec2, whatever it takes there. B2 vec2 0, comma 0. If they press A, it will go left. If they press right, it will go right. I think that's a good way to do it. It gives it a more natural feel, like A will see that? Still a little slow, but it is updating. I can make it faster if I want. Or maybe even make it a variable, because later on we want to add a power up. Oh, it's off a little bit. You see that? It's good in the X and Y. Or it's good in the X direction, I think, but not in the Y. No, it went through. My origin's still messed up. Yeah, it's too high in the Y. Alright, yeah. It's pushed over now. Now we're in a situation where we're like... we're in a situation where box 2D is here, but SFML is like... That's fine. Hello? Box 2D is there, but SFML is like here. Okay. So we gotta fix that. I wonder how that happened. And if we do... Where's our paddle? If we do this, it doesn't work either, right? It's off.
Make it work. Yo, what are you trying to make? A Pong game?
We're gonna make Brick Breaker.
Oh. Your paddle's too slow.
I know, I'll fix it. Okay, this looks good in the Y direction, but I don't think it's good in the X. Y direction's fine. Y origin is fine.
Are you trying to make it do like realistic angles?
Not yet, I just want to see if it's hitting the paddle. Actually, that's weird, guys. It actually is hitting the paddle now.
Isn't that good?
Yeah. I swear to goodness that
Shouldn't swear.
that origin thing, when it was messed up, but now it appears that it's righted itself. I don't know what happened there. I gotta make it faster too. This is painfully slow. 8 and 8. Yeah, it works. The ball's kind of too slow too, so maybe I'll give the ball a little more pace here too. And that happens, I think when I make it, yeah. 100 and 100, so I'll double it. And that'll be all for today. It's just add that paddle and see if we can get the... Well, we're going to see some issues. Like, we're going to get the ball to bounce off the paddle at specific angles when it hits different... But so far we made our own ball and our own paddle. They got box 2D in it. See that?
Yeah.
That's going to be an issue for us. See how I was able to add energy into my system? By smacking it? I don't want to be able to do that. See that? Because it's an elastic collision for all you physics majors. So I want to avoid that. But it is working nicely. So let's put that on YouTube.